join us. There'll be some attendees, and we have 12 people signed up so far. So, yeah. I just wanted to thank everybody on the Zoom attendees, as well as people on Facebook Live joining us at the moment. And welcome to the First Peoples Fund Resilience webinar series. This newly created webinar series has been developed to continue our work to enhance the business and entrepreneurial skills of Native artists and culture bearers, as well as expand our virtual community during these rapidly changing times. Bi-weekly, First Peoples Fund and our nationally recognized Native Arts Professional Development, or NAPD trainers, will deliver values-based, topic-focused webinars on Mondays, followed by technical assistance office hours on Wednesdays, to follow up and answer any questions regarding Monday's webinar. For the month of May, our last presenter will be Tanaya Winder today, but starting in June, we are going to be having Ben Sherman focusing on business planning, and along with Kuloku Holt, that will be focusing on performing arts and negotiation, and a marketing section with Robert Martinez. So check out our Facebook page as well as our FPF website for more information, and to also sign up for future registration for those webinars. Some other virtual events coming up through FPF is that our Rolling Res Arts is excited to kick off the first events of its virtual arts celebration. The Rolling Res Arts program is dedicated to bringing folks in Indian country and surrounding communities the expertise and disciplines of artists within the First Peoples Fund family. Coming up on this Saturday, I believe, yes, May 23rd, we have Michael Tubles will be going live on Facebook with a printmaking demonstration on Sanotype. This live event will open up with a performance by a very special guest. So I would definitely recommend checking this out to see the performers, as well as checking out Michael Tubles' amazing demonstration. You can find out, again, more information about Rolling Res Arts on our Facebook page as well as on our website. And before Tanaya starts her amazing presentation, I just want to do a little bit of virtual housekeeping for everybody on Facebook Live as well as on Zoom. That this is, again, a recorded webinar, which will be available within 24 hours of the webinar concluding on our Facebook page, as well as our YouTube playlist on the FPF Resilience webinar series. We also have a pretty amazing resource library that not only has our FPF Resilience webinar series available for people if you create a login, we also have other really great webinars and sessions for our entrepreneurial Indigenous artists and peoples. So I would really recommend checking that out. I will share all of those links in Facebook Live as well as Zoom for people to check out. Please keep yourself on mute on Zoom. This is a 1-hour presentation with a 30-minute Q&A. Depending on the Q&A, the amount of questions, we may bleed over a little bit into the 30-minute Q&A. It just depends. I will be collecting questions for Tanaya through the Q&A section on Zoom, as well as through the comments section on Facebook Live. So don't hesitate. We would love to get any and all questions that you have for Tanaya on this topic. Participants on Facebook Live as well as on Zoom, I will be sharing a SurveyMonkey link for everybody to fill out. It only takes a couple minutes, but we would love any input on how well our session went today and how we can definitely improve ourselves so we can create a better product for the people that we serve through FPF's organization. So without further ado, I am thrilled to present Tanaya Winder from the Duckwater Shoshone, Pyramid Lake Paiute, and Southern Ute Indian nations. And the topic is cultivating your online presence during a pandemic. Thank you so much, Tanaya.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here today. I'm going to be sharing a little bit just of my own tips and tricks that I've picked up along the way. Oops. Okay. So as it was says, my name's Tanaya Winder. I'm enrolled Duckwater Shoshone, but I'm also Pyramid Lake Paiute and Southern Ute, and I grew up on the Southern Ute Reservation in Southern Colorado. I'm also part Dene and part Black, and anytime I do a workshop or a presentation and I'm supposed to interact with people, this is how I usually start. And So I say my community, I say my affiliation, and also what I do. So what I do, my main job is I'm the director of a University of Colorado Upward Bound program, which works primarily with Indigenous youth from 5 states. We work with students from the Pine Ridge Reservation, Ute, Mountain Ute, Southern Ute, and then the Navajo Nation. We work with schools in Arizona, Utah, New Mexico, where we also serve the Jemez Pueblo community. And so that's my main job. And I think that has given me a lot of the skills that have taught me things that relate to this, specifically like on budgeting, event planning, like working with community. But I also teach online at the University of New Mexico. I'm a writer and performance artist myself. I do spoken word and singing, and I started an Indigenous artist collective called Dream Warriors, which has myself, Frank Waln, Lila June, Mike Jordan, Tal Paul, Jessa Calderon, and Gunnar Jules. I think that's all of us, 7. And what motivates me? Love for my community, love for my people, wanting people to feel worthy, that they belong. And that stems from losing somebody I loved to suicide earlier in my life. And that really just made me want to be somebody who works with students and works in community. And I think that's important to share those things because it's going to relate back to a lot of my social media presence and the things I'm going to be sharing. And normally, if we were in a room together, I would ask you guys to go around and share yours as well. But that's just something I like to do if you want to borrow that at all for your purposes. So as it was mentioned, we're here with FPF's Resilience webinar. They also have this YouTube channel where you can check out all of the talks that have happened so far and the ones that will come. And then just I wanted to share First Peoples Fund's vision and mission because that's a part of why I'm here today. I love the work that they do and how they continue to serve our people. So webinar description, just in case you're like, what did I sign up for again? But this is going to be about how to cultivate your online presence because staying creative is hard if you're an artist yourself. Like it's hard with all the other stressors in life, but now that we're in a pandemic, it's even more stressful. So in this time of social distancing, we still can stay connected. And how do we as performing artists do that? And there's different ways to cultivate your platform, whether you're a seasoned artist or just starting out. Hopefully something you'll learn here will resonate or stick with you. And I think that's important to share too, just because, I didn't study marketing. I didn't study business. I went to college and got a bachelor's in English, and I got my master's in fine arts and poetry. So I learned a lot of this just by doing. And so I'm really excited to have the opportunity to just share some of those lessons I've learned. So in the beginning, I just want everyone to check in. And if you have something to take notes, I think that might be helpful, just because a lot of this webinar will be reflective as well. And that way, if you have questions, you can feel free to email me at tanayawinder@dreamwarriors.co.co, or you can tune into Wednesday's live Q&A session, which will be from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. But I wanted people to just think, what do you want out of your career? I think it's never too late to ask those things. Like we all have seasons, just like Mother Earth. And, we're in spring now, just coming out of our winter, things are starting to grow. And you can think about what seeds you want to plant for your career, especially in like building your online presence. So what do you hope to cultivate in social media? I know like social media is something everybody has, like from like youth to like our elders having Facebook. And some people use it for different purposes. I use my personal one to check in with family, different things like that. But if you're creating yours as an artist from this professional perspective, I think it's important to think about, the intention, because, everything we start, even if we start our day with prayer or if we plant seeds, it's an intention that you're hoping to grow. So I want everyone to think about your social media, whether you have like an amazing online presence already, or you're just getting started. Like, what are you hoping to get? Do you want more gigs? Do you want more professional relationships and colleagues you can collaborate with? Do you want more supporters? Do you want a bigger audience? And who do you want to connect with? And for me, this is an important one, is what is your why? Like, why do you want to do those things? What do you want to get out of it? and that relates to your career. So I'm just going to leave that for a second and take a sip of my coffee for you guys to just reflect a second. So these are just some ways to stay connected. I'm going to go over some of these more in depth, but Facebook, I just wanted to say, do you have an artist page and a personal page? Because the sooner you start, the better. For me, like somebody made a Wikipedia page of me and that somehow links directly to Facebook. So now I can't have an artist page that's at Tanaya Winder. It has to be at Tanaya J Winder. So if you're not on that yet, I would suggest like starting your artist page or like your presenter page. Instagram, definitely like for those who are more visually directed, you can do quick story updates. Patreon, once you get like a decent audience built, maybe you can do that to help gain supporters, people who can monetarily support you in your artist journey. Snapchat definitely has a lot of benefits. I feel like if you want to directly connect with fans or supporters. For me, I don't use that one because it's important for me to have some boundaries. And since most of my work is with Native high school students who all have Snapchat, I just feel like it's better for me to not have that. And that's just my personal preference. Twitter, for short content, you can connect with a lot of people through hashtags. Like how Facebook has the social distance powwow and other groups like Twitter, you can use Native Twitter. I know a lot of people interact on there. And YouTube, like, do you have a YouTube channel to promote your work? And then I'm gonna go over Zoom and how you can use that to do webinars or workshops or a live performance. So just some quick social media tips that I think that are important is to, and some of it might seem like basic, but I want to share it anyway, is to use the same username across all platforms. That way it makes it easier for people to find you. My Twitter and Instagram are at Tanaya Winder, but like I said, my Facebook can't be that because, it's already linked to the Wikipedia. So I think it's easier if you can keep that the same across all platforms. I know a lot of artists do that. And to keep it professional. I know like it's tempting to get into like some of the drama of Facebook or a lot of arguments like come out, but I think it's important to just act with kindness to everyone because you never know who is going to support you, who follows you that might want to book you on a gig. Like I know a lot of the gigs I've gotten in the past couple years when we were still able to travel were people who just followed me on social media and wanted to reach out. And you also never know like what somebody is going to grow up to be. Like I also think a lot of my gigs come from my students who then become college students who then become people who work at organizations that can pay to bring people to come. So you just never know. So that's the keep it professional, act with kindness, and stay out of drama. Remember your purpose. And this is not me. I'm not trying to like give you nagging like mom kind of tips, but that's just what I think like works best. Like for your professional social media page is to remember your purpose. And that's why I wanted us to start with that reflection. What's your purpose for being on here? And to embrace vulnerability. And I'll come back to that last one because I need to share some other things with you all before I get into what I mean by that. So anytime we're doing anything, I think it's good to ground ourselves in values. These are First Peoples Fund core values. A lot of them relate to my personal values. I know in Dream Warriors, we have listed our values, and everything we do, whether it's like a workshop or a performance, it should align with our values because that's how you stay grounded in your roots moving forward, to act with generosity, respect, strength, humility, whatever your values are. So I'm going to call this part entering the arena because we are about to enter the arena of social media, and it's a whole nother world. I can't imagine growing up now like with just everything online. Like we got Facebook when I was in college, and that was like interesting, but everything is documented, everything is shared. You have your in-person persona and you have your online persona. And I think now being in this pandemic, it's even harder to discern because everything happens online, right? If you are social distancing. But I wanted to just take a step back and like kind of frame some of my views on social media and creating your presence through this example. So before, when we could still travel and things like that, there's this talk on Netflix, if you have Netflix. If you don't, you can look up some of her talks on YouTube, but the Netflix one I think is the best. And this is from Brene Brown. And she talks a lot about shame and vulnerability and all of these different things. But I watched this documentary, and at first, I also have a short attention span. So when I logged on and I saw it was an hour, I'm like, am I really going to be like tuned into this lady talking for an hour? But she was so dynamic, and I could not stop watching. And I took so many notes and quotes, things that empowered me. So when I was flying around on gigs and stuff, and my flights are always like at least an hour long, I would always download and watch this talk before every gig, because I wanted to be reminded about what I was doing and just to show up fully. So I'm gonna play you guys a little clip.
I pull it up. The first thing on Google is a speech that Theodore Roosevelt gave in 1910. And I start reading it because, again, I'm doing anything I can to not go back to Houston, Texas in my life with the haters. So I start reading it, and it says, it's not the critic who counts. It's not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done it different. The credit belongs to the person who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred with dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short again and again and again, and who in the end, while he may know the triumph of high achievement, at least when he fails, he does so daring greatly. There's my life before that quote and my life after that quote, like in really 1 minute. And 3 things became very clear to me that were really life altering. 1, I'm gonna live in the arena. I'm gonna be brave with my life. I'm gonna show up, I'm gonna take chances. And here's the thing I can tell you, 20 years of doing this research, we just crossed 400,000 pieces of data. Here's what I can tell you for sure. You're brave with your life, you choose to live in the arena, you're going to get your ass kicked. You're going to fall, you're going to fail, you're going to know heartbreak. It's a choice. It's a choice that I make every day. These are the words I say before my feet hit the floor every day. Today, I'll choose courage over comfort. I can't make commitments for tomorrow, but today I'm going to choose to be brave, and I know what that means. And it's so funny because I do all this work with leaders and in organizations today, and they'll always say to me, I hear you, and I'm going to be brave, and I'm willing to risk failing. And I'm like, you don't hear me. You're not hearing me. Somewhere between what I'm saying and what you're hearing, you're taking out the you're going to fail. Not you're going to risk failure, you're going to know failure if you're brave with your life. The second thing that became very clear to me is that quote was everything I've learned about vulnerability. Vulnerability is not about winning, it's not about losing. It's having the courage to show up when you can't control the outcome. And we've asked thousands of people over the last couple of decades, what is vulnerability to you? And the answers range from vulnerability is the first date after my divorce, trying to get pregnant after my second miscarriage, sitting with my wife who has stage 4 breast cancer, making plans for our toddlers, getting fired, firing someone, coming out to my Christian parents, saying I love you first. There's this great story that.
And so that's just like a little part. I'm going to share a couple more clips, but I wanted to draw your attention to some parts because putting yourself online is vulnerable. It's vulnerable because you can't control the outcome. You don't know how many followers you're going to get. You don't know if you're going to try to do like a live stream of your performance and get 1 person or 0 people. We can't control if there are going to be those haters. She's sharing this part after she gave her first TED Talk and it went viral, and so many people just posted awful comments about her. And that is a reality that some of us face. You know, unfortunately, there is a lot of unhealthiness. There is a lot of jealousy. There is a lot of, we don't control what people say. So it is vulnerable putting yourself online. But I wanted to remind everybody that what she said, you know, like today I'm going to choose courage over comfort, because I think that's important. in like knowing what you're getting into and putting yourself online, because it can be a frightening experience.
I pull it up, the first thing on.
And then, so I also wanted to draw our attention to knowing who you are and sharing who you are, because like I said, now we're living in really interesting times where what people see is what they're getting. You know, I've been doing this for a while now, and I've seen some performers who act one way on their social media and a different way in person. And what I strive and what I hope we all strive for is to be who we are on the stage and off the stage. Like if we're up there talking about advocating for our elders or for our women, that when we're living our real lives, that we're not abusive, that we're taking care of each other. So I think it's important, if you want to build like a genuine social media presence and an online presence, is to know who you are and share who you are. And I also, before like we go into the next parts, I wanted to ask this question, you know, if you haven't created an online platform yet, what has kept you from cultivating your online presence? Quick example for me is, you know, I had never wanted to start a Patreon account. And, you know, my artist family was encouraging me, like, you should. And some of them, I'm like, you guys have so many more followers. Like, I don't think I should do that. And, you know, I was afraid, I was ashamed. Like, what if I do this and no one supports me? Like, what if I do this and people think, why is she doing that? You know, like, I think we all have that like internal voice sometimes in our head that tries to say, don't do that, protect yourself, be safe. But I decided to, you know, be brave and choose courage. So I did create one. And I might not have hundreds of supporters, but I have like 8 wonderful people who make me feel seen, who support me in a different like facet of my art. So with those things in mind, I want to share 2 more short clips, and they're just a couple seconds.
And we want belonging in the midst of this thing, right? But let me tell you what belonging is. The opposite of belonging from the research is fitting in. That's the opposite of belonging. Fitting in is assessing and acclimating. Here's what I should say, be. Here's what I shouldn't say. Here's what I should avoid talking about. Here's what I should dress like, look like. That's fitting in. Belonging is belonging to yourself first. Speaking your truth, telling your story, and never betraying yourself for other people. True belonging doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you are. And that's vulnerable.
So for that part, I think when you're getting started online, depending on what platform you're on, and for me, I'll give the example of Twitter. So like on Twitter, a lot of the people I follow, they're really angry, or they'll have what I call like those angry tweets that get a lot of likes and retweets. And this is no judgment on them, because, you know, the world is a messed up place, and so much messed up things has happened to Indigenous people, Black people, and people of color, that we are entitled to our rage about things. And so when I first started getting on Twitter, I felt kind of like this Twitter peer pressure to like say things like that, to just try to help get more traction to my posts. But then I had to take a step back and think about this part, like knowing and sharing who you are. Like for me, I wasn't raised that way. And again, that's not a judgment on them. Like, it's just the way I was raised. I don't get angry that easily. I hope I don't. I don't think I do, but, and so that's not me. Like, I more am about love, you know, even my coffee cup says #love. Like, that's kind of my jam. That's more who I am. So I felt, okay, like, I need to know and be who I am in person and online. I'm going to share one more part too, because that goes with that fear of maybe like not wanting to share or not wanting to do online performances, because this is really important as well.
How many of you want more love, intimacy in your lives, joy? You can't have that if you don't let yourself be seen. How can you let yourself be loved if you can't be seen? Does that make sense?
And so for that one, I just wanted to draw attention to that part. Like, I think, especially like working with some younger artists, or like trying to help people get started when they want like tips on how do I do this? Like, how do I put myself out there? I've seen so many people get frustrated early on, like, well, that person's not following me, or why is this person getting that gig and not me? And again, falling into that like jealousy, less than, I'm not worthy thing. But I like to call attention to that part, like, how can you let yourself be loved if you can't be seen? You know, and even me, like, I feel like I'm doing a good job getting out there and getting performances, but sometimes, like, when I'm performing, I'll just shrink. You know, I don't want to shine. Like, I want the people in my group to shine, or like, I think in my head that people are here to see this other person. So even if we're supposed to split the set time, you know, 15 minutes, I'm going to let them go first. And if they go over 20, 25, I'll just take the last 5 or 10 minutes. Like, I was so stuck in that, like, just let me just take what I can have, you know. But I think it was me falling into that, like, not letting myself be seen. So how am I going to, like, build an audience or let people love the art that is me and love the art that is you if I don't let myself be seen? So I think keeping that in mind, like, with your social media, like, allow yourself to be seen, because your story is a privilege to hear and you are important in that way. So that's what I meant by the embrace vulnerability, because if you want to stand out for being who you are online, I think it is a little vulnerable to put those things about yourself out there. And so that's why I wanted to, like, kind of frame it like this, like, knowing who you are, because your values shape who you are, and incorporating, like, your cultural identity. All of those things, like First People's Fund says, like, are connected. Your values, your cultural identity, your artwork. But I also wanted to, like, give some advice, because I've seen a lot of times people performing, and it's hard to find a balance. Like, I've seen people tell stories and use it as therapy, which is good, because, like, music and storytelling and all those things is medicine. It should be therapy, but not, like, acted out on stage. Like, if you haven't healed some traumas, you shouldn't be speaking about those traumas in front of, like, a crowd of people, because you're just going to traumatize your audience, you know. Like, and we're in reciprocity, you know, as Indigenous people, we are in relationship with our audience. Like, you have to think about what you're sharing and why, and is what you're sharing. And I share this with the people who work for me in the summers too now, like, who work with youth. Like, if you're sharing something personal, make sure it's in service of the students and not just serving yourself, so you can be seen in an unhealthy way. So if you're sharing online as an artist, you know, what are you sharing in service of your audience, and what are you sharing in service of yourself? So I'm going to play one more little short clip that just says that more succinctly.
Trust comes before vulnerability. This is a hard one, right? Like, do I trust you, then I'm vulnerable with you? Or am I vulnerable with you, and then I learn to trust you? And the answer is yes, and. It's a slow stacking over time of vulnerability and trust. We don't go out with, like, you know, the big guns and, like, nice to meet you, I'm Brene, here's my darkest secret. Can I trust you forever? We start with little things and we build over time. And the more I share with you and the more you honor that sharing. But here's the thing. You share with people who've earned the right to hear your story. Your story is a privilege to hear. You share it with people who've earned the right to hear it. You don't share it just because. Vulnerability minus boundaries, not vulnerability. Last, vulnerability is disclosure. This goes back to the boundary thing. Live tweeting your bikini wax, not vulnerability. Sharing the intimate details of your divorce and your pain on Facebook for your kids to read who are reeling as well, not vulnerability. Again, vulnerability minus boundaries is not vulnerability. And you don't measure vulnerability by the amount of disclosure. You measure it by the amount of courage to show up and be seen when you can't control the outcome. Does that make sense?
So yeah, I just wanted to say that, you know, your story is a privilege to hear, and to think about how you're crafting, like, the story of you online in different mediums. So again, you can either walk inside your story and own it, or you stand outside of your story and hustle for your worthiness. And I share that again too, just because it is hard. Like, I've had people reach out to me too and say, like, why are you getting all the gigs? Like, I work really hard. And I think just encouraging people to, like, stand in their own story, or else you're always going to feel like the outside looking in. And like how she said, like, belonging actually doesn't mean fitting in. Belonging is staying true to who you are. And each of you are amazing, brilliant, talented artists who have a story that's worth telling. And I hope some of what I share can help you craft that so that other people can know the wonder and magic that you are. And last thing, I know like I like to also start with like what I do, because I think some people think it's all disconnected, like Upward Bound, teaching, Dream Warriors, your own music, your own writing, but each of them like fit together and have taught me just so many different things because I'm always trying to learn. So this one I was watching when I was thinking about just leaders and like in a teaching capacity, in a social organizing like capacity, but I think it relates very much to artists as well. I think this one's just like 30 seconds, so I'm gonna play it as well.
Why you do what you do, and people respond to why you do what you do, then how will you ever get people to vote for you or buy something from you, or more importantly, be loyal and want to be a part of what it is that you do? Again, the goal is not just to sell people who need what you have. The goal is to sell to people who believe what you believe. The goal is not just to hire people who need a job. It's to hire people who believe what you believe. I always say that, if you hire people just because they can do a job, they'll work for your money. But if you hire people who believe what you believe, they work for you with blood and sweat and tears. And nowhere else is there a better example of this than with the Wright brothers. Most people.
And so with that one, you have your what, you have your how, you have your why. What, I am a musician, I am a poet, I write poetry. How, like, I perform places, like I publish books, like I try to get my work out there, but what's my why? My why is exactly what I said earlier about what motivates me in what I do. And that is trying to create space for everybody to feel like they are loved, to feel like they are worthy, to feel that they belong. Like, that's my why. And I try to put that why in everything I do, whether it's just like a one post or in it, and I put the hashtag love, or I put the hashtag heart work, or if it's like a talk I'm giving, like I always try to bring it back to my why. And I think, this guy is right. Like, if you put out who you are and your why, you'll attract other people who believe what you believe. And so a quick anecdote I'll share from that is the first time I was asked to perform a spoken word feature was when I first moved to where I live, and they invited me to come. So I went to go check out the event first to see what I was getting into. And it was a beautiful event that happened the second Friday of every month. There was a music feature, a poetry feature. They had vendors, they had food, like they had jewelry, like they had so much going on, and it was awesome. And then I thought, wow, like I write poetry, because at the time I was processing my friend's death. It's like, I write poetry about grief and love and longing and healing and loss. Like, I can't go up on stage and do what I do and feel like I'm leaving people in a good place on a Friday night. So I was like, okay, what do I have? It's like, well, I think I can sing. I've always loved singing. I do karaoke. So I'm going to write a poem with like music in it. So I wrote this ridiculously long poem, kind of just making fun of myself and like this like idealized version of love I had in my head. I think it's still on YouTube, called Silly Love Songs, but I memorized the whole thing. It was like a 7-minute poem interspersed with songs that I was singing, and people loved it. I got a standing ovation, like it went really well. Like, I felt good just being in my body and being on stage doing that poem, and I knew like I was gonna keep doing that. This one Native artist, his name's Douglas Miles, he like came up to me after the show, because he was featuring there as well, and he was just like, you're gonna go really far with your art, like that's amazing. And just starting out, like being down on myself, I was thinking I'm not gonna make it. And I told him, I don't have like a big audience, I don't have a big following, I don't think I'm gonna make it. And he told me, like, people will support you not because of what you do, but because of who you are. And it always stuck with me. And then when I was watching, and that was in 2011, and then watching this, 9 years later, like preparing for like my Upward Bound job, I thought, wow, like it totally does relate, because that is like kind of how I walk through this world now. And I think I want you all to have that as well, like to find people who believe your why, because in all those different aspects of my life, whether it's teaching online or Upward Bound, which can be like a thankless job sometimes, when you're like hustling hard and you don't always get like, thank you, I appreciate you. Like, I've had some amazing workers who work like exactly what he said, with their blood, sweat, and tears, because they believe in the why of what we're doing.
Why you do.
Okay, so now we're gonna get into it. My tips, I hope this is helpful, but I'm gonna go over like Canva, Instagram, Zoom, Patreon, and creating a website if you don't have one. So Canva, you don't need to be a graphic designer to create promotional materials. Like I said, I studied poetry, but I taught myself some things, and I hope this can teach you some things too. So this is Canva. You just go to canva.com. You can create a free account. What's awesome about it is that it has all of these templates that you can use. You know, if you wanted to do a shirt or a poster or business card, flyer, brochure, I basically think it just has a lot for any kind of self-promotion you want to do, particularly on social media. You can do an animated social media, Facebook video, Instagram post, like it will create all these different dimensions for you. So that way you can have consistency. They have lots of different templates and things that you can use to just help you get started. So we'll go ahead and go in there. So let's look at the Facebook post. So in that, you can see how it has different things, like different templates if you're trying to sell things. And then you're always able to like add your own photos. Let's say maybe they have one on like concerts. Let's see. Yep, so then you can have different ones like that, and you can say, oh, I really like that one. And then you would just say, you can do all the text. You can change the colors. I think it's very intuitive, like the photos, you can delete things, you can add your own things. It's very like you can drag and drop, like when you add photos. So let's say I'm trying to do one about me, and I'm trying to say, oh, I'm gonna do some coffee hours. You can resize things if you don't like it like that. You can delete it. You can add yourself back in. You're just able to do a lot of really awesome things. It even has effects if you wanted to. And again, this is all free. Let me see what that looks like, or do different tones. And if you don't like something, you can always do this little undo up here. So let's just put me back in there. You can also do filters, which are different than the effects. That gives it a different, if you want to do black and white, if you want it like that. And then the cool thing is you can just immediately publish it to Facebook, or you can link it to your accounts, or you can download it. What I like about it is you can download as a JPEG, a PNG. You could download it as a video if you're doing multiple things. You can download it as a PDF. So it just has a lot of different things, a lot of different tools. I'll show you something that I created. So you can make little folders. So I have one called promotional materials. And so that's just where I save the different things I've done in the past to help with my own social media. This is an older one, that's why it says no longer supported, but this was when I first started performing. I created my own flyers around where my gigs were. And then I would update it and like play around a little. And I think this is helpful too, to show what you're doing and where you're doing. I think it shows people that you're working, that you're in demand, so to speak. You can even do one that like highlights how to book you, how to follow you. So that's just a little bit of the things I had been playing around with. One thing I also did to try to kind of up my social media was I would do these quotes where I would come up with quotes of mine. I would put my website, just little thoughts that I had to see if people would share it, people would follow. And then that kind of became my story, and when I get to the Instagram part, you'll see that's kind of what I do. I post pictures. I try to be uplifting. I'm all about hard work and love. So I create different things for my social media that align with who I am as a person and as an artist. I've used Canva to create artist statements when I've applied for things, my bio. things that I want to lay out. My artist resume, like my biography, my experience, those are other things that you can do with it. And again, like you can see all the different templates that they have there. All right, so here's the next video on Canva. I love Canva. I use it for everything, like whether it's my job or my art hustle or just trying to create different graphics. And so I just wanted to show you a little bit more about what can be done with Canva. So when I had my new book come out, I made some promo for myself on there. I put like the cover of my book. I got different quotes from people. And I had used that to like turn it into a movie. So that way, you know, other people can look at it, can watch it. It was able to stream on my Instagram. Let me see. One other thing too is, you know, working on trying to get my artist collective out there more. I created like our curriculum on here, and when it prints out, it looks really nice. You know, and like I said, I'm not a graphic designer. I just taught myself how to do these things on here. But again, there's like so many helpful templates. A lot of them are free. Some of them you can pay $1, a little bit more to use. They have different things that you can use, like graphics, things to make it fun, different grids to put your videos in, different shapes. One thing I did when I was trying to promote a poem of mine is I created this, and I always just try to like play around on it, like experiment, see what's out there. See, for this one, you know, I could try to download it as a video. We'll see how long that takes. And then, you know, if you have artists you're wanting to promote, if you're promoting your own music, you can then import this video into something as simple as iMovie and add your own music to it. That way you're getting your words out there, you're getting your lyrics out there, but you're also, you know, sharing your music. There's just, I think it's really endless, all the different capabilities that Canva has, especially if you're not comfortable with using Adobe InDesign or other things that graphic artists do, or if you don't want to pay a graphic artist to do things, you are able to, you know, use your own skills and enhance your own professional development by learning how to do this. You know, like you probably know better than anybody else how to promote yourself. And this is a platform, I think, that really helps you take advantage of it. It's neat too, because they always have these little quotes, like whenever they're, they download any of your work. I think it's really interesting that they do that. It's almost there. But while that's downloading, I'll just continue. Oh, there it goes. So there you go. Now you have a little video that you can use for your social media as well. Maybe it's for your Patreon. Maybe it's just to email people. And look, it's just 45 seconds. You know, I could take off a couple slides to get it to be 30 seconds. So that way it would work for my Instagram story or maybe for a Twitter post. And so, again, just more interesting things that you can do with Canva. You know, you can create, here's one where I created like my own pricing on like books and things like that. And like, if you want to layer things, like you can arrange it, move it to the back. Like it just helps you. I think there's just a lot of tools that Canva has at your disposal. Again, there's another example of an artist resume that I created. And it's fun, you know, just to figure out what's a good layout, what looks good, and to just teach yourself different things, different skills. You can promote your albums, you can promote different things coming out. And again, the templates I think are really helpful. I think it helps teach you, you know, how to better share how, like, what looks good aesthetically. And so Canva, I definitely think, is a good skill for everyone to practice when it comes to promoting yourself and upping your social media presence. Awesome, so that's Canva. I'm gonna talk a little bit about Instagram as well. And if you're curious too, like if you wanna do presentations to somebody and you're like, how did she do that with like recording and stuff? Like this was actually recorded using a free Google app that you can record up to 5 minutes for free. If you want to record more, you can pay, but it's called Screencastify, and it's just a Google extension you can add that I'm finding really helpful, especially like with putting together presentations, and that's how I'm able to embed these videos in my presentation.
I just wanted to take a minute to show you Instagram. You can do a lot more with it on your phone, but unfortunately, like I can't show that. But I will talk about how to create stories and different things like that and post. But one thing I wanted to talk about, because I had mentioned like what kind of story do you want to tell on your social media? Sometimes I'll change the link depending on what I want to highlight. And these are actually called highlights. So I used Canva to create these little photos, these little graphics, so people can like look and see like what were past performances I've done, like words like love. That's what I was calling like my little series about like quotes, like things I've shared when people have shared my words about my book or different things. I was putting like whenever I had tours or different gigs. Again, just like different fun ways to like archive in a more organized way things you're doing. Merch, I don't know if I have anything on there. Oh yeah, my books. Just different ways to promote. Artwork, that's when I was just sharing. I guess I only have one thing on there, but so you can use those to play around. And the way you add things to it is when you do a story, you can say like if you want to highlight it in some way, and you do that from your app. But this is like the aesthetic. Like my Instagram didn't always have this, but I decided that I wanted to like really just create this narrative about what I was sharing and how I was sharing it, because again, you want to attract the people who believe in what you're doing and how you're doing it. So you can just kind of see like my style, my own aesthetic evolving over time. But this is before like I had that, like it was just a bunch of photos, again, of just different performances, different things I've been doing. But then when I thought I wanted it to look more polished, I started adding in my quotes. So there's always a quote, a photo, a quote, a photo. And then it can be hard, it can feel like work, like, oh, I want to post something, but I have to wait until I come up with another quote. And then trying to try out different things. Like I think when you're creating your online presence, like you just have to be willing to try out a lot of different things. Like this was when I was trying to do like a, if you could walk in my mocks kind of series, like different quotes. But I didn't feel like that was getting shared as much. So I just tried to make it simple again, like just having regular words. And then this matches like a logo that one of my friends did for one of my businesses. So I stuck with it like that. But that's just a little bit about what I mean about like the aesthetic of what you're trying to create on your page.
Awesome. So I think all social media is just an opportunity, again, to figure out how you want to package yourself and how you want to tell your story. And that's what I was getting at with that Instagram one, because I like having that like sleek view on mine and not having like just a bunch of photos and different things like, and also probably because I'm OCD and controlling. So I like to just make it look like that. But again, like if you have like students or kids, they probably know a lot more about like Instagram and things like that. But for me, like someone who has like 3 jobs, like these are the easiest ways I think to promote yourself. So again, each post is an opportunity to show who you are, let your audience know who you are, to tell a story and promote an idea. So the main way a lot of people do it is just using that create button, and that's when you can type things. If you want to perform on Instagram, you can just do the live one. And it's good to just practice too, like I get such stage fright, especially performing on my own. That's why I like traveling with my my brothers and sisters. But I've been trying to get brave and put myself out there in different ways too. So you can do the live and see who logs on, and you don't have to save it. Like mine, I definitely got nervous and messed up, so I deleted it. But if you rocked it, like you can save it, it archives it, puts it in the IGTV if you do a longer post. but that's one thing you can do. And just like if you're going to be performing live, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, or Zoom, make sure like you have good lighting as well, that people can see what you want to see. Like I've seen some people where it just shows like way up close or way down low. Like my desk is in front of a window right now, so that's why I have just this natural lighting. So get creative. Like one of the things you can do on that create mode in Instagram is you can do polls. You know, if you want to just try to start upping your engagement, you know, should I go live later today? Who wants to see a sneak peek of something, you know, yes or no, or more fun things. Like it doesn't always have to be about the hustle as well. If you want to let people get to know a different side of you. Support other artists and influencers. So the way like social media works, from what I've observed and seen, is like you can help build your platform when you don't like operate in this vacuum. Like if you interact with other accounts, you support other people, you shout them out. Maybe you can find people you want to collaborate with, other influencers, like let someone do a guest post on your thing. Or like the neat thing about live, is if you go live and like say you're wanting to work with another artist, they go live too, you can add them as like going live together, like your co-host. So that might help as well, like increase your followers and engagement. This is one where you can just shout out like 3 accounts to follow, show love to each other, because when we're in this together. And then the other one I like to use is the ask me a question. And you can put anything in there. Like during this pandemic, I've put like, how's your heart today? Like wellness check-in, how are you doing? Or, you know, what should I write my next poem about or my next song about? And I think those are important as well to increase your engagement, because you could have 1 million followers, and if none of them engage or interact, then like what good is your account? You know, what I said, what good is an account if it doesn't move people to action? And you decide what you want that action to be. Do you want it to be supporting you? Do you want it to be booking you? Do you want it to be purchasing merchandise? All right, now we're gonna do Zoom. This is before I put on my makeup, but.
So I wanted to go over some different tips from Zoom. So whenever you are the host, you log in, but on the chat, that's when you'll see when people are trying to add in themselves, because what you want to do is you want to have everybody have the password or the link, and they'll be put in these waiting rooms. So you'll be able to add them to the waiting room. It'll say add them to the main session. The other important thing I would say is under video settings, you can pick like some different settings, mirror your video, touch up your appearance, spotlight video when speaking. If you're using it for performing, that's good to have that selected. The other thing is if you want to be able to share maybe projects you're working on, you can use the share screen. If you want to get interactive with your audience, like what song should I do, or what would you like to see in this workshop, you can create a poll and then you just add questions. And then it will tell you, like, you can add the questions there, the title for the poll, save it. It will get sent to everybody in the Zoom. The other thing is breakout rooms. So if you're doing a workshop, it's cool because it will either automatically put people in rooms. So let's say you have 100 people, you could assign 10 rooms and it will tell you how many people would be in each room. Or if you want to like pick and choose, then you can manually do the rooms. And as like the host, you're always able to pull people back out of the rooms, which I think is really cool. The other thing for when you're performing on this platform is you can actually share it. Like if you want it to be just for the people who registered for your performance or were invited, then just keep it on Zoom. But if you want to share on your other platforms, it's great because you can add live on Facebook, live on YouTube. You have to change the settings in your Zoom account to get that to happen, but I will show you how to do that.
Awesome. So I think another good opportunity during this time is if you do workshops online or performances online. One, we don't know when things are going to change, so it's good practice now in case people do have like budgets to spend down next year or want things to do with their students. You'll be a pro at running like Zoom performances or workshops. And And it's also good to watch yourself. I know I'm one of those people who I don't like watching myself, but it teaches you, you know, like, do I use my hands too much? Do I keep like touching my face? Like, do I keep rubbing the grease off my face? You know, and it just teaches you how to, I guess, be a more dynamic speaker, I would say, and give yourself like a critique of your performance and your delivery. So I did want to share one more thing about Zoom for those of you who are interested in using it as a platform for doing like live performances.
The other thing I want to show you about Zoom is, depending on what you're going to use it for, like for me, I find like it really helpful to have the account where I can have like larger meetings, depending on how many people we add. And so what I like about it too is that, well, actually, let me just show you how to do what I was saying earlier. So if you're unfamiliar with Zoom, I would just go in and look at a lot of the different settings, like determining if you want people to be able to join before you, if you want to use your personal meeting ID, require a password with your personal meeting ID. I always require the passwords because I think it just helps with security, muting people upon entry. But one of the things I like that I'm gonna, well, I guess I'll stop here too. Like you can allow, if you want people to be able to private chat in your meetings, if you want them to or not. If you want it to automatically save, play sound when people join or leave, if you want them to be able to send files, if you want to allow co-hosting, polling, like I was saying, if you want to get interactive, I suggest having the polling. I like letting people screen share, just for my purposes. One of the things too is, so if you want to be able to use the breakout rooms and allow the host to assign breakout rooms, that's helpful if you're doing workshops, or if you maybe break people up to do questions, you can split them up and then come back. You as the host do have the ability to jump in and out of different rooms. So I know it's not like ideal, but you know, when we're visiting schools and we're doing poetry workshops or songwriting workshops, it would be nice to like bop around to the different groups to help and check in, but you can still do that on Zoom. You can still jump into the different meeting rooms and out. You can send a messages to them like, hey, 5 more minutes, then I'm pulling everyone back to the main session. So you can do those. The other thing I wanted to show you guys, I believe it's at the very bottom, so I'm just gonna scroll to the bottom. When I was talking about going live. Okay, so this is really important for people who do wanna use this to perform or share your work. Again, I'm in the settings, meeting advanced. You have to click allow live streaming meetings. It's already automatically set to default, so to default as off, so you have to switch it to on, and then you can check. So I just check Facebook, I check YouTube, save it, so that way if I'm doing a performance or something that I want people to see on my Facebook page and my YouTube channel, you can use Zoom to stream it that way. That way you can have the people who are actually in the Zoom and those who are on Facebook watch it as well. I'm sure those of you in this webinar on Facebook are watching it like that because of this feature. I also like to record my sessions as well, but that's just a little bit about like some of the logistics of Zoom if you're wanting to use it to perform.
And I would add to that, when you do do a Zoom performance and you are live streaming it to Facebook or YouTube, make sure you have a friend or somebody who's also watching it on the other medium. So if you're doing it live through Zoom, have one of your friends watch the Facebook broadcast that's also like connecting, because sometimes, you know, I've been on poetry readings where it was going off on Facebook and then they would have to let the host know to like fix it. I don't know why that happens, connectivity, different things, but I think it's good to have somebody who's there who can help monitor to let you know like if it's stopped sharing on Facebook. All right. So I'm going to talk about Patreon. I'm going to share 3 examples from 3 different artists. Again, once you build your platform big enough, or like mine's not that big, but I still have a Patreon. Like, I think it's good to just work on it now. Like, you know, we have the time while all this is going on, like, why not like get yourself like set on everything? That way it's easier if things were to return to some normalcy.
So here's an example of a Patreon account. My artist brother, Frank Wong, you can see, tips that it says is to give different membership levels and to kind of name them based on like you and your style, so Frank has used Lakota words for his membership levels that you can join. He's had 6 levels ranging from, $1 a month to people who feel like contributing more, 55. He has 107 patrons, which is really awesome. And it's harder to get there. That's why I suggest building up your social media platform first. I only have 8 patrons on mine, so goals, to get there like that. You include your about section. And for him, you get exclusive posts. One thing that Frank's really good at, I don't do this on mine, but I probably should, is posting previews like that so you can see, and then how it's locked. But once you become a patron, then they become unlocked and you can get access to those posts. Different artists use it in different ways, sharing things, maybe sharing songs, first listens. So that's definitely something I would encourage you all to do. I'll show another example of someone else as well. Here's another one, another FPF fellow, Ray Zaragoza. Same thing, different names, lovers, warriors, fighters. She's included pictures on hers, so you can get creative as well. She has 212 patrons. Again, just different things for you to get to know her, things that are locked and unlocked. You can put goals on there. Like she says, when she gets to 225 patrons, she'll release a new song. It says what you'll instantly get. So that's something, even while you're working on creating your platform, you can slowly start building your Patreon, look at what other people are doing, and just see what's possible. There's never, a wrong way. You just got to try it and, see what works, see what doesn't. And, it's all learned by trial and error. And you don't have to be a performing artist to use Patreon. This is another Indigenous writer. Her name's Caitlin Curtis, and she uses it to share her writing, her talking, blogs. So again, different membership levels, 5, 25, 50, all the way up to 500. Welcome to the community. Let's just get started. Let's take a seat and talk. Let's work together. You believe in us. And one thing I didn't know on the other ones is that, each level, sometimes people give more exclusive content for the more money you pay. See how hers up here, you get a coffee mug, different conversations. Up here, you get a signed copy of her book if you do that much. So she also has a good amount, 101 patrons, reached her goal. And so sometimes, people will just post updates. And I think it's a really good way to just practice how you tell your story, how you tell yourself. Patreon is a good way just for you to practice those things, how you cultivate yourself, how you package yourself. And I think it's just a really helpful exercise to do that.
So I'm gonna skip the website part. I can go over that in my Q&A session for any of you guys who wanna learn more about WordPress. I'm not really good at Squarespace or Wix, but WordPress I think is just very intuitive, I feel. So if you don't have a website yet, you should get one. It's nice to have and just to be able to send people directly to one place. Artist resume, again, I created mine on Canva, and I hope everyone would create one. Here's an example of another FPF fellows. One I can also go over more on Wednesday, just an example. If you want more examples of artist resumes, I think it's very helpful. Okay, and electronic press kits. That's also just an easy way when you do get booked to help people have everything they need so you don't have to send a bunch of back and forth emails. I'll share this video really quickly as well.
So I just wanted to give you guys a quick look at what press kits, look like, electronic press kits. We have different ones from Dreamwears. Some of them will just have different flyers about ourselves, things that we offer. Let me see if I can pull up one of mine. So This we worked with a graphic artist to help design just a quick one sheet, like venues played, quotes that we have, awards, bios, how to get in touch with you on all of your social media. Another one, so I have them for Dream Warriors, but I also have them just for the individual artists. If I'm helping to work on any of their bookings, they can use these as well. This is like Frank's press kit. It'll just have photos that he's approved, bio, like album cover. Some people, I think Lila says, yeah, bio, short bio, long bio, photos, just to help people when they book. It makes it easier just to say, here's my EPK, here's my electronic press kit. It has everything you need. I'll show mine. So for me, because I'm an author and a performing artist, I'll have one that has my book covers and CD covers if people bring me for a book reading. If people want me for music, I have song samples. I need to actually come up with one for my spoken word samples. Press releases that have been written about like my books. That one's about my EP. And then just headshots and photos for them to choose. One thing I think that everybody should do, just like a little Tanaya tip, is to come up with different bio lengths. So mine, I have like 250 words, 200 words, 150. So, when people ask you, like, send me a 25-word bio, like, then you don't have to stress out about, doing it, like making it shorter, making it longer. You'll have all of these different versions just ready to go. So this is helpful because it helps people when they book you. All you have to do is just say share a folder, and then you send them the link. You can say, can anyone with it can view or edit? I would just say view, so people don't mess things up in there, and then just copy the link. And then when you're ready to go, you just send that link to them, and they have everything they need when they're booking you.
All right. So, and this is just like some more reflection. I know I've kind of shared a lot of just information, and it might feel like, whoa, I just wanted to create like a Facebook page or like learn how to get more audience. Like I didn't know she was going to tell me to like think about who I am and who I want to like be and put myself out in the world. But it's all connected, and I think the more time and like intention you put into it now, I know that it will pay off. So again, just thinking about your why, like what do you want to create for yourself, your people, your community, and why? And if you want to be a career artist, like what does that mean to you? And I think now, while we're still distancing, like it's important to just take that time to dream, like if money and resources were no issue, what would your art be like in 5 years? What would your social media be like? Like put those good intentions out into the world. These are the circles of influence that we teach and share in the First Peoples Fund professional development. But just think about how much your circles of influence will increase when you expand your social media network. Like it's amazing to have people comment from like different countries or different states and to just show that support. So I believe in setting out goals and to-do lists, even though I don't always do everything on my to-do list, but you set yourself a goal for this year. Like maybe you want to complete 5 virtual performances in like a professor or teacher's class. Like maybe you can start reaching out now, like as people are planning their fall and like wanting to mix things up because everyone has like Zoom fatigue or online fatigue. Like maybe high schools want somebody who can come in and like do a virtual workshop through Zoom. University classes, clubs, native clubs, maybe radio programs if you want to host virtual concerts. And then, plan like what that's going to be, like what are the goals of that? And hopefully maybe in 2021, maybe we'll be doing in-person performances again. So this is like just a task planning worksheet, deciding on your aesthetic, the story you want to tell, defining your message. What do you want your social media to show about you as a person, as an artist? Create a timeline. I know that helps keep me accountable. Like I have on my calendar, like the first Wednesday of each month, like do a Patreon post or like do a live stream. And then work on creating and polishing that content. Like if you're good at Adobe InDesign, work on it. If you have a friend who's looking to practice their skills, maybe ask them if they could create for you or try out the Canva. and all those different things, and reach out to online partners to see who like wants to do a feature, and update that artist resume in EPK, because that way once you get booked, like you can just send those things and it's so much more simple. So community engagement, I think right now is like an excellent time for us to try to build community and build engagement and connection when everybody has to be so far apart. Like, how can we help support each other in that? So here's some that I saw. I'm sure there's more, but every Saturday, you know, Indigenous People's Art Gallery and Cafe, Dawson Davenport, he's a poet and artist as well. He hosts like this virtual stay-at-home series. He said a lot of young people in his community weren't taking the stay-at-home as seriously, and he wanted to be able to provide them with like entertainment. I know KBFT 89.9, Boys Fort Tribal Radio. They just are starting a Native Americana audio cafe with Kisakola, like interviewing people Indigenous ways. I believe another First Peoples Fund grantee, they do like virtual events and concerts. Definitely check them out. See if maybe you can get featured, or create your own and invite people. So this part I feel like is touchy too, because as artists, we're always underpaid, like, and we know our worth, and it was hard before the pandemic. So now, like, I know I've had a lot of people reaching out, maybe half have been paid, half have been pro bono. But I always like choose, you know, like what is my commitment to this organization or people, what does my schedule look like? Like, but I think now if you're able to, at least if you want to start building those connections, like you can do it pro bono. Like it broadens your audience base, like it expands your network, and just so many people are at home and in need of like things, and you never know. Like I've had things where I've done things before for free, and then later on when an organization has had funds, they have paid me. But you know, you can teach how to write a song or a poem, you can do a beat making workshop, you know, you can make your own videos and share. But that's just something I want to like put out there. Like I hope everyone can get paid their worth, but I think like you can pick and choose and be intentional and do some things like pro bono to just help. So if you need more like technical assistance, you can contact First Peoples Fund. If you have things you want to share, like there's how to get in touch with me. If you're like motivated, you're like, I want to create all of these things and platforms, like, and you want to email me, like, let me know, like, I'll follow you back. If you follow me and I don't follow you back yet, just message me and say, hey, follow me, I saw your webinar, because we're here to build and support with each other. So I'm going to stop my share now, and then I think we can do if people have questions.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it, Tanaya. That was really awesome. And I enjoyed those videos and those step-by-steps. This is definitely going to be a great video for people to watch recordings later and to be able to go at their own pace and watch it too. So thank you. So a couple questions I've gotten, and they've been mostly through Facebook Live. Could you share the name of that next Netflix video? The presenter about entering the arena.
Oh yeah, let me find it. She has lots of books too, if you like to read, or audiobooks, but it is called Brene Brown, The Call to Courage.
Okay. Ooh, courage. Okay. And then a second, well, it's more of a comment, but you could probably respond to it too. Nasi on Facebook Live said, you know, more competition to advertise, creating clear message to convey, take time to create for online platform and limited broadband available to support digital presence for some.
Yeah, I would say that is very real, and thank you for sharing that. And maybe not everybody is going to have access. Like it's a privilege to be able to have access to, like you said, Wi-Fi and like those platforms, and it does take time. But I'm hoping everyone can set aside a little bit of time each day, even if it's just 10 minutes, 20 minutes, or again, trying to find somebody who can help you create those things. And if you do have a hard time with that, but maybe you know a visual artist, or maybe you're visual yourself, like maybe you just like write it on cool little cards. Like I've seen people like post like little quotes, like writing on their hand and posting it as like an Instagram post, or like, you know, I like took these little quotes from Brene Brown. Like you can do things that like don't take as much like online effort if you're just like, I'm going to write down this quote that says, today I'm choosing courage over comfort, and take a picture of it and post it. Like those might be other ways. And I'll think more too for Wednesday, like about that comment as well.
Great. Let's see here. And let's see, another comment question is, what about hashtags? Any hashtag help?
Oh yeah. Hashtags, I feel like it's one of those things like Brene Brown was saying, like, I think I fail hard on hashtags. Like, so I've heard people use different tricks. Like I've heard some people will go to posts that have high engagement and see what hashtags they're using and then use those in their post. Some people like just put 20 hashtags on their posts, and that's fine too. Some on Twitter, like you can see what's trending, and then you can try to like do posts with that hashtag as well to get like new people to yours as well. But for me, like I try to just use the hashtags like I want to be associated with me. Like I'll use hashtag love, hashtag heartwork, things like that. But yeah, there's definitely a lot more that can be done with hashtags.
Oh, okay, great. And then the last question that I have at the moment, but I'll keep checking Zoom and Facebook Live, is somebody is writing a story about, you know, how the pandemic is affecting the livelihoods of Native artists. And this person would like to understand the most important sources of income for people and what life has been like without it. And also she was wondering who lives in an isolated setting and where, you know, like living in an isolated setting. So I'm thinking that she's trying to say like living on reservations, living in small communities, rural communities, and if there are certain materials that are difficult to procure. And I know that you can only speak on behalf of an Indigenous performing arts lens, but if you could, you know, talk about the important sources of income for people and what life has been like without it, as well as, you know, the materials due to the rural communities and because of the pandemic impact, what has been difficult to procure for you?
For me, I was on track to like be paying off a good amount of my debt because I just have, I don't know if it's a source of just my own like trauma or background or just always wanting to be like the prepared person in my family, but I had always tried to have like multiple streams of income so I can help people and like get out of debt and help my loved ones. That was like a hard hit. Thankfully, some universities have booked me still to do a talk and have paid me. I'm trying to post more on my Patreon for people as well. But like, I think for me personally, like it put just a lot more things in perspective because I do have like 2 other jobs still that were not impacted by the pandemic. So I just really recognize even more like how blessed and privileged I am. So what I did was I worked with my Dream Warriors Collective to try to create a mutual aid fund to help other people, not just artists, but we were able to get a $50,000 donation from a foundation that we gave away to people who could apply for funding up to $575. And we're still doing webinars right now to help raise money to pay like our artists and to pay like other people from this mutual aid fund. A lot of the artists I work with in my collective, their art is their main source of income, or like they have jobs like in service or retail that like they haven't been able to do that. So a lot of people I think are just applying for unemployment, like we'll look for these like artist disaster emergency grants to share with people. And we share those with each other, like we help each other apply. But I think it's just trying to get creative. I know like for a lot of people, sometimes it's hard to even get to the post office. Like if you're getting, like, for instance, someone we're mailing a check to, they're like, have you sent it yet? I only go into town and check the mail like once a week. So like, I think that's a challenge. A lot of people don't have internet, and some places don't have hotspots and service. I think those things are a challenge, but it's a really difficult time right now. Like, so if there are ways to support artists, like I encourage everybody to do so. I've seen some people getting innovative too, like this one artist I know in Albuquerque sent an invitation to me, which I then sent to other artists I know. It's called, like, I forget what it's called, but it's like a live entertainment TV series that he was doing from New Mexico every Friday. So it kind of seemed like a virtual Patreon where you have your page, you go live, and people can donate like or pay credits to you, and then you can get like paid out from that. But yeah, I think it's a tough time. I've seen some people like creating more art and trying to sell it online. Sorry, I hope I answered that okay.
No, I think you did. And I think the only other question that you might have not answered, or I may have missed it, was, are there certain materials as a performing artist that you've had a difficulty in like gaining access to? Due to what's going on?
Well, I was working on my first full album with like a producer here where I'm at. So now like we can't get in the studio, like, even though he has a home studio, like it's like, I can't go over to his house and record. So that's put like a lot on the back burner as well. And just knowing like a lot of people also don't have access to the internet. We're trying to do some more radio programming for people as well. And whereas like, again, before I could go record in a studio, like now it's just trying to do it on my phone or through Zoom.
Great. Well, thank you so much. That definitely answered it. It looks like, again, there's nothing on Zoom. Yeah, and Facebook Live looks like we're up to date with all the comments. So, which is perfect timing because we just have a few minutes left before the end of our session. So is there anything you want to like summarize for your session for everybody, or just any final words before we close out for today's session?
Just I wish everybody like luck and prayers for everybody, because I know a lot of people are struggling right now. But I think, it's important to do what makes you happy and to think about the future as well. And hopefully you can make time to help yourself craft your story so that you can sell yourself better when things do come back online. And just be in gratitude. I know that's not what I said in my thing, but like, I'm trying to practice more, even though I'm like really overwhelmed with a lot of commitments that I have. Because, I worry, like if I were to get the virus, singing is the thing that makes me most happy. And it's the thing that I put off until just 3 years ago. Like I was too afraid to do it. And now like I would be devastated if my lungs got hurt and I couldn't sing anymore. So I'm trying to do it every day, even when I feel exhausted and don't think I have time, like making time for the things that matter.
Wonderful words, great way to end this session. Thank you so much to Tanaya Winder for being able to share her talents and skills with us, and her knowledge of cultivating your online presence during a pandemic. Again, we do have a Wednesday for 1 hour, 3 p.m. Mountain to 4 p.m. Mountain Time. Our virtual office hour where we can answer any questions that you may think of after watching this recording, or after you leave this session, you're like, oh, darn, I should have asked that. We will be back on Wednesday. So definitely bring your questions. And I know that Tanaya will be probably diving a little bit deeper into other areas within what she shared as well to fill up that time. And we would love your company on Facebook Live as well as on Zoom. So thank you again for all of our participants and viewers. We appreciate the love and support you're giving us, as well as to our presenter, and all the kind words. So to everybody on Facebook Live and on Zoom, thank you for your time. Have a wonderful start to your week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and thank you again, Tanaya. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.